So every worst place to live video in Washington kind of does the same recycled style. It makes it seem like it's a big crime report or something horrific. Well, this is not what I'm going to do here, because that's not what wrecks a relocation. What wrecks a relocation is not knowing about the insurance, not knowing about the flood maps, and knowing water rights. By the end of this video, I'm going to have you know exactly which Washington cities carry the hidden risks that you don't know about, and exactly which public records to check before you write up that offer. Hey there, I'm Leanne Hall. I'm a real estate consultant here in Western Washington, and I'm going to tell you every single week someone gives me a call after they've already picked a city off this list that someone gave them, and they flew out, they fell in love with it, they made an offer, and then all of a sudden they found out the insurance company's not going to renew it. Or they found out that their lot might be sitting inside of a flood zone nobody ever flagged or told them about. Or even worse, they found out that well that they thought they were going to have with private water, those rights they don't have, and they assumed they did. So this really is a due diligence problem. So here's the deal. For the next 18 minutes, I'm going to flag 10 Washington cities. I'm going to rank them, and every one of them is backed by public data, not my personal opinion, but data. So I'm going to give you FEMA flood maps, state insurance filings, county economic data, not vibes, not a copied list from another video. This is true data. And at the end, I'm going to throw in 3 bonus cities that almost made my cut here for reasons that actually are going to surprise you. Let's get into it. All right, before the list, 3 things that matter more than the ranking on my list here. Number 1, it is insurance. Washington homeowners who got non-renewed or canceled by their insurance company, well, guess what? That number more than doubled in the last few years. Under 12,000 policies went to over 24,000. So here's how it works. The state law here gives you about 60 days notice when this happens. 60 days here is going to give you to find new coverage in a market that's already starting to tighten with policies here. So average premiums statewide are heading towards about $600 a year. That's where we're at in 2026. Number 2, what I want to talk about today is flood maps. FEMA redraws them. Almost nobody checks them before they buy. Not sure why the agents aren't bringing it up, but one city on the list that I'm going to show you has an entire section sitting behind a levee FEMA has flagged as non-compliant with federal flood control standards. So that's a public map. It's not rumors. This is true stories. And last but not least, number 3, I want to make sure you understand water rights. If you're moving here from somewhere like Texas or the Midwest, maybe, a private well just means a well to you. Here in Washington, domestic well use is regulated county by county. In some growth areas, new wells are actually restricted outright now. So that information's never going to show up on some type of ranking list that you're looking on Zillow or that your realtor sends you. It shows up at closing all of a sudden when title flags it. The day it kills your closing. That's not where we want to get. So keep those 3 in your back pocket. I'll flag them by name as we go along today in the video. So let's start with the one that looks like a gross story on paper. Number 10 is Auburn, Washington. So if you're not familiar with Auburn, Auburn sits in the Green and White River area valley. So before modern flood control, this valley pretty much flooded on a regular cycle. You would hear about it all the time. The flood zone designation on a lot doesn't just disappear because the dam upstream is doing a good job for a few years. Auburn's also in the middle of a warehouse and logistics boom right now. So what happened was all these jobs started to come very quickly. We had road and utility capacity that didn't always keep up with the pace of new people coming into the area. If you're looking at new construction on the valley floor here, ask for the flood zone designation before you fall in love with that floor plan. Number 9, Kent, Washington. So Kent, Washington sits in that same valley area. It's a different exit off the freeway. Now, Kent, Washington has become honestly one of the busiest logistic corridors in the Puget Sound right now. What you'll find out there is a ton of warehouses. You got all the railroad crossings. You got truck traffic that does not stop. New construction here doesn't mean no flood risk. So what I want you to do, if you're looking in this area, is ask for the flood certificate, not the builder's word that says, oh yeah, we're good out here. So everything so far in my video has been about land use. This next one is going to be about housing stock itself. Number 8, let's talk Lakewood, Washington. So Lakewood, Washington sits next to the Joint Base Lewis McChord. If you're not familiar with that, you can look that up on a map. That proximity means there is a lot of the housing stock that's turning over super quickly. They might be on a 2 or 3 year cycle, and then they're tied to reassignments. So military area, it's moving back and forth. You got higher rental density and lower owner occupancy. So owner occupied streets and renter heavy streets don't appreciate the same way. So ask your agent if they can show you the owner occupancy rate on that specific street. Don't ask for the city itself, ask for the city and try to see what it is. Number 7, Federal Way, Washington. So Federal Way is really centrally located. It's got some real bones there. It's redevelopment money and it's moving in right now. But a lot of the I-5 corridor here is still aging retail. You got strip malls waiting on capital that hasn't actually landed here yet. Now that's kind of you're going off of a timing bet. You're not having a guarantee that it's actually going to appreciate for you. Ask for the capital improvement plan actually filed with the city, not what your listing agent's telling you like, hey, this is up and coming in the area. Ask for that plan. Okay, so far we've talked about infrastructure. The next one is going to be about the economy underneath that. If you're relocating to Western Washington and you want someone to run this exact checklist, you want to know about insurance filings, maybe flood maps or water rights on a specific address that you're considering, that's what my free Washington relocation guide is going to walk you through. My link is in the bio and I'll bring it back to you at the end here. Number 6 is Toppenish. It is in the Yakima County. It's an economy built entirely off of agriculture. So think about it. When your crop prices shift or maybe the labor conditions shift, your whole local economy is going to feel this out there. It also sits inside FEMA's elevated wildfire risk zone for central Washington. So I want you to stack a single industry economy on top of some of these elevated wildfire exposures, and your job security and your insurability are tied to the same outside risks here. That's the first thing I check before I tell a client to even consider any of these type of rural agricultural markets, because they have a lot of ties that could create problems. Number 5, let's go into Aberdeen. Aberdeen sits where the Chehalis River comes to meet multiple rivers. There's large sections of this city that are falling inside the FEMA mapped flood zone hazard areas. It's federally backed by loans that are in these flood zones that require massive flood insurance. These are not things that you can negotiate. So Aberdeen was a timber town back in the day. That industry left decades ago and it never came back. In this area, you're going to see that it's a smaller tax base, which means you got less money that's going to go towards infrastructure or maybe building the schools. You're going to have mandatory insurance costs stacked on a shrinking economic base here. So for me, it's the opposite of what you want if you're looking for a true investment. Let's take a quick pause here because I want to correct something before we go any further. So I'm not telling you here, never buy in a small town. That's definitely not what I'm trying to get across. There's plenty of small Washington towns that are excellent buys out here. The difference to me is whether the local economy is standing on one leg or 3. Aberdeen and Toppenish both stand, trust me, on 1. That's truly the tell there. It's not the population count. It's not if you're looking at what the home prices are. It's truly the number of legs that are supporting it. All right, we're in the top half now. So this is where that flood map I promised you at the very beginning is going to show up. Number 4, Spokane, Washington. And I'm going to talk about specific corridors here. So Spokane as a whole is genuinely a really good market. Most of it isn't going to be on my list here, but infrastructure investment across Spokane's neighborhood is definitely very uneven. Some corridors have seen consistent reinvestment. Other areas haven't. Days on market and price per square foot can shift from one block to the next block, not just neighborhood to neighborhood. So if a client mentions to me they want to check out Spokane, Washington, my first question is always give me the exact address, not the city that we're looking at, but the address. The block is my unit of analysis. The city is definitely never. Number 3 is Tukwila. Tukwila sits right next to SeaTac. SeaTac, if you don't know, is our airport there. That's not an accident, that's a zoning thing. So most of Tukwila's land isn't residential at all. It's actually commercial, industrial, warehouse space that's stacked under all of those flight paths. So flight path noise, this is what I'm wanting you to hear right now. If you're looking at a home near the airport because you want it convenient, ask for the FAA noise contour map before you ask about even what the kitchen looks like. To me, way more important to know if you're going to be hearing this all night long. Convenience and long-term livability are not the same thing here. So number 2 is going to be Fife, Washington. So Fife, Washington, if you're not familiar, it sits right on the I-5 corridor. It has freight yards, truck stops, warehouse space, and it is packed wall to wall. And here's the one thing that I promised you at the beginning of the video. Fife actually has a FEMA mapped flood hazard area tied to a levee that the federal government has flagged as non-compliant with flood control standards. That's on the city's own published flood map. If you're looking at property inside that zone, you're likely already looking at mandatory flood insurance, and you're stacking that on top of an already industrial, high traffic corridor. 2 costs, same address here. A basic ranking list is never going to show you this. And I promise you, this is not the one that you're going to be expecting here. Number 1 is Orting, Puyallup Valley. This is not going to be a crime story that I'm going to share that happened there. It isn't even a real economy story. What I'm going to talk about is the geology here. So, Orting, Puyallup, and Sumner, they all sit on a valley floor where the Carbon and Puyallup rivers meet. They're downhill from Mount Rainier. These towns have been settled on this valley floor for over 100 years. They've got thriving downtowns, and they've got really great communities that sit within it. But Mount Rainier, if you don't know, it is an active volcano. The biggest hazard it poses isn't lava, it's a lahar. That is a volcanic mud flow. Federal scientists say a lahar could reach communities outside the park in as little as you got 15 minutes. Some models put it closer to maybe 5 minutes. That's why there's a siren system that runs from Orting to the Port of Tacoma. That's why Pierce County runs regional excavation drills. Lahar Hazard Zone. That's a phrase almost nobody outside of Pierce County has ever heard of. If you're relocating here, you need to know that word. So this has been nothing to do with the neighborhood. It has nothing to do with who lives in the neighborhoods. It actually has to do with the ground. It's the river valley, and it's the single biggest piece of due diligence I do for any client looking at property between Orting and the Port of Tacoma. And that is why it hits number 1 for me. So most top 10 videos stop here at number 10, but here are 3 more for you, and why each one of them is on my radar for a completely different reason. I want to talk about Longview. So Longview is in the Cowlitz County. It's a mill town with the same industrial decline story as Aberdeen. It's just less talked about. So watch this one if you're eyeing it because it's affordable. Southwest Washington, affordable and appreciating are definitely not the same thing. All right, Shelton. Shelton sits in Mason County. It's a local economy concentrated by, guess what, 2 employers. You've got the mill out there, and then you've got a correction facility. It's beautiful, remote, but genuinely it's tough to resell fast, especially if your plans change quickly. It's going to be hard to keep that value that you paid for. Pullman. Technically, it's Washington's lowest medium household income city, but almost entirely because of its based on student population from Washington State's University. It's definitely skewing some of the data out there. I included Pullman on purpose. It's the clearest example of how some type of ranking list can be technically true, but at the same time, it's completely misleading. So that's the part that I want to get across. There's lists that are going to show you things that are going to make it seem like, wow, this is super affordable, and it's the economy out here, everybody's in this price point. Well, it's in this price point because they're all college kids. So here's the real takeaway, and I want you to actually hear this part. This isn't a do not move to Washington video by any means. Washington is still one of the best relocation states in the country. You have no state income tax. It's got a really strong job market and some of the most livable mid-sized cities on the West Coast. The problem has never been the state. It was picking the city off of a list that only measures one thing, when the things that actually wreck a move are insurance, our flood maps, our water rights, or even a volcano hazard zone. Those don't show up on these lists that you're picking the best places to live in Washington. So remember what I told you at the very beginning. Every one of these videos is copying that same list. All right, so now you know the 3 things that the reports are typically leaving out. You know exactly which questions to ask before you make an offer anywhere in the state. That's the difference between researching a move and maybe strategizing a bit. It's exactly the kind of work I do every week for people relocating or trying to downsize within or just trying to invest in Western Washington. All right, guys, so drop the target city or zip code in the comments and I'll tell you straight up a yes or a no. And trust me, it's going to depend on which block. And if you want that full area by area relocation breakdown or maybe some insurance risks, know about the flood zones, go ahead and grab it in my relocation guide below or send me a DM. Or again, my phone number is actually in the bio, so feel free to reach out. I answer every single person that reaches out to me. I'm Leanne Hall. If you enjoyed this video today, give me a thumbs up. Would love to hear what other questions you have about relocating to Western Washington. See you soon.